Okay, but moving back to terrestrial production, which is the focus of the ecological hoofprint. Agriculture is the biggest land use of human societies, by far. Okay, now there's different ways of estimating it. The FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, long gave a figure that about 10% of the Earth's non-ice land area is in crops or permanent cultivation, and about a quarter of the Earth's non-ice terrestrial area in pasture. The Millennium Ecosystem Assessment estimated that about a quarter of the Earth's land surface is given to what it called agriculture, and a mixture of where there's at least 30% of the landscape is cultivated in a mixture of crops and pasture. And this map kind of indicates that enormous footprint of agriculture. And there are some other assessments. A big assessment a few years ago suggested about 12% of the Earth's non-ice land is in crops, permanent crops, and about 22% in pasture. But in any event, both are a huge part of human land use. So pasture, 22 to 25%, and there is a huge range in stocking density. So in some pasture, their animals can be relatively densely stocked on rich grasses. In some areas, they are very sparsely stocked. Highly arid areas, the degraded soils of former tropical rainforests have very low stocking densities. And the extensive pasture has been a momentous force in global land use transformations over long periods of time, and it's an enormous force to this day in tropical deforestation, extensive cattle ranching, and also increasingly feed crop production are a major force on the frontier of the Amazonian deforestation, and extensive ranching is also a major force in desertification in many arid environments around the world. So pasture is the biggest footprint of all aspects of livestock production. And this is a big part of what the annual greenhouse gas budget is from agriculture is from tropical deforestation, desertification. And desertification is amplified by climate change, but desertification also contributes to climate change because there's a loss of vegetation and soil-based carbon. And so animal agriculture's role in tropical deforestation and desertification is a major part of estimates of how much how much of a role agriculture plays in climate change, and why livestock production is so central to agriculture's overall greenhouse gas footprint. But crops are also very, very important part here, crop production. And animal feed occupies about a third, not quite a third, but close to a third of the world's arable land. So land given to permanent crops. About a third of that goes not directly to people, but goes to animals before it's consumed by people. Okay, so feed crops effectively occupy close to a third of the world's arable land, again, which is about 10 to 12% of all land, non-ice land on Earth. And so those feed crops are what I describe them as oceans of monoculture grains and oilseeds are flowing into these growing islands, those growing populations that I'd mentioned, those islands of industrial livestock. So about 30% of the world's arable land devoted to coarse grains and oilseeds, that's devoted to animal feed. Another way of looking at this picture, a very powerful way, I think, this was basically a group tried to visualize an estimate made by environmental scientist Vaclav Smil, and what he tried to do was calculate animal biomass on Earth. So not individual animal populations, but basically the biomass of all animals, and including humans in this picture. And so the middle picture there is humans, those 7+ billion of us. And then what else shows up in this picture is that livestock make up the dominant, along with humans, the dominant animal biomass on Earth. So environmentalists have long focused on the endangerment and endangered and threatened species, which are really a tiny amount of all mammalian biomass on Earth. And to stress here, this is mammalian biomass, not all animal life. But this is where environmentalists have long focused, is animals that are shrinking in population and who are losing habitat. But they've often not paid enough attention to the exploding populations of animals in factory farms and feedlots, which are, again, a very large share of all mammalian biomass on Earth. And another aspect of this picture here that it doesn't entirely come through in this looking at just mammalian biomass at any one time on Earth is that there is also, it's missing the phenomenal growth of poultry, which is, again, the biggest driving force in contemporary livestock growth, but also the fact that animal populations on Earth at any one time are being cycled, industrial livestock animals are being cycled very, very quickly. So there's this very rapid turnover. Again, industrial chickens can be bought from hatch to slaughter in 6 weeks, industrial pigs in 6 months.